Hello, sports fan, and welcome to the Packs for Breakfast 95 Tops. I guess I completely forgot that I had these particular cards. I even did the research for them on Sunday, and I completely forgot that I had them, and just forgot to make this video. So what you're looking at here is 95 Tops All-Star Team infield. This is the infield. Now I know what you're saying. You got two first basemen there. You got two first basemen. You can't have two first basemen. They won't let you. I've looked through all the MLB rules, scoured every rule I could to see if I could find a loophole that would let us play two first basemen at the same time. Turns out MLB does not allow it. They frown on having the 10th guy out there in the field. So, I figured, neither one of these guys won a lot of gold gloves. It would really help our defense. Think of it, you're not allowed to do the shifts anymore. So this way, this solves the shifting problem. Just put an extra guy out there. I think it would work. I know it would work, but Rob Manfred probably won't agree with me. So every Sunday morning, Chris and I, we pull a bunch of cards, open a bunch of packs, come up with the all-star teams. Every Sunday at 6 a.m. Mountain Time, 8 a.m. Eastern Time. So let's go through these guys. Let's start off with Ken Caminiti. He has been on one of these all-star teams before, so this is his second one. Congratulations, Ken Caminiti. You are now a two-time all-star. The guy next to you is like a 3 or 4-time all-star, but that's okay. Ken Caminiti, unfortunately, he died in 2004. We lost him over 20 years ago. But he was always one of those players that I really enjoyed. In fact, he does have ties to this first baseman right here, Jeff Bagwell. They both played the hot corners for the Houston Astros at about the same time. In fact, the same time, because their cards were both in 95 and they were both playing for the Stros. Ken Caminiti played for the Stros from 87 to 94. He had a 272 career batting average, 239 career home runs, 983 career RBIs. He played 15 seasons in the MLB with a 33.4 WAR. He had 1,710 hits. Pretty good. He was a 3-time All-Star with 3 Gold Gloves. He was the NL MVP in 1996. He hit 40 home runs, 130 RBIs, and batted .326 that year with a 7.6 WAR. Caminiti was very good. Not a Hall of Famer, doesn't have those kinds of numbers. But he's, if they had a Hall of Very Good, Ken Caminiti would be in it. He played for the Padres from 95 to 98, played for the Astros again in 99 and 2000. And then he split time with the Rangers and Braves in 01. Now the guy next to him is a certified legend. One of the best fielding, you can almost say one of the best just fielders, period, in MLB history, is Ozzie Smith. Ozzie Smith was a 15-time All-Star. The amazing part about it is that he had also in 15 All-Stars, he had 13 Gold Gloves at short. That, one of the toughest infield positions to play, he had 13 Gold Gloves there. He had a 262 average, not great, but not bad. 2,460 hits, the 28 home runs. Well, I'll tell you, I'm surprised. It's like, if you can only hit 28 home runs, I'm surprised you can hit 28. You could get, I wonder if he hit any of those at like Mile High or Coors Field. I mean, he played his last season. I think he played his last season. I can't remember when he played his last season. I think it was 97 is when he played his last year. So he would have gotten to take some shots at Mile High Stadium and Coors Field playing for the Cardinals in the NL. He had 580 career stolen bases. He was a World Series champion in 1982. He has a 76 career WAR, which I'm guessing, the WAR is going to take some of his offensive numbers into account. It's still a really good career WAR, but he was definitely not a thumper. He did make the Hall of Fame in 2002 on the first ballot. Played for 19 seasons, all of them with the Cardinals. Now we're going to talk about Sweet Lou Whitaker. Now this is a guy we have never gotten to talk about. He is an incredible second baseman that, you know, we just didn't really get to see. He played from 1977 to 1995. So, you know, it's like when I finally got into baseball, Lou Whitaker was closer to the end of his career than the beginning. But he definitely still had some good years left, even when I was watching baseball. In fact, some of his best years for some of his stats happened, you know, later on. He has a career WAR of 75.1. He has a career batting average of 276 with 2,369 career hits, 244 home runs, 1,084 RBIs, with 143 stolen bases, and he walked almost 1,200 times at 1,197. He was a five-time All-Star. He won a World Series with the Tigers in '84. He had 3 Gold Gloves. He played for 19 seasons. Lou Whitaker was, you know, he was a very good second baseman. He is one of those guys we don't really talk about. I mean, usually when we talk about second baseman, it's always Craig Biggio or a joke player like Tim Tuffle. So to pull a Luke Whitaker in '95 was pretty cool, because it's like we don't pull. I think that's the first time we'd ever pulled a Lou Whitaker card. Some of his best years for, like in 1991, his best year for home runs, he hit 23. Once again, not a thumper, but 244 in the career as a second baseman. I mean, that's really good for a second baseman. In '89, he had 85 RBIs. That was his best year. And in 1983, the year before they won the World Series, he had his best batting average at 320. He had a really good batting average, like his second to last season too. He batted 301 in his second to last season with Detroit. But we don't really get to talk about Lou Whitaker, so it was nice to be able to look up his stats and see, you know, the big numbers that he actually put up for being a second baseman. He doesn't really, in my mind, he's not going to compete with Ryan Sandberg, who's my favorite second baseman, and Craig Biggio, who's, you know, the show's favorite second baseman. But he definitely is well deserving to be up there with those guys. Unfortunately, he does not make the Hall of Fame. I'm not so sure that those numbers aren't good enough for Hall of Fame at second base, but, you know, never got that, you know, nod. Now, we have 2 guys here, Frank Thomas and Jeff Bagwell. And I'm sure you're sitting there going, well, what are you going to do about those? You can't have 2 first basemen. What are you going to do? What are you going to do with this? Well, let's look at their numbers. Let's compare their numbers side by side. Why? Well, because they're side by side right there. So let's compare their numbers side by side while they're standing side by side. Let's start with Jeff Bagwell. He batted 297 in his career. Frank Thomas, 301. Jeff Bagwell had 2,314 career hits. Frank Thomas had 2,468 career hits. Right now, Frank Thomas has a commanding lead. The home runs, Frank Thomas, 521. Jeff Bagwell, 449. Once again, Thomas is pulling away with this. Frank Thomas had 1,704 RBIs, while Jeff Bagwell had 1,529 RBIs. Now, a little context. Frank Thomas played for 19 seasons. Jeff Bagwell played for 15. So he's got a few more years, but Frank Thomas's numbers are definitely a lot better, except when you get to stolen bases. Stolen bases, Jeff Bagwell had 202 career stolen bases compared to Frank Thomas's 32. So Bags had some speed, had a little bit of, he could run. He was a pretty thick dude, and he could get out there and motor. Career walks, Bagwell had 1,401 career walks. Frank Thomas, 1,667. Now, obviously, I look at those numbers, and I'm easily going to say Frank Thomas is our starter. Frank Thomas was a 5-time All-Star. Bagwell was a 4-time All-Star. Now, here's the fun part. Frank Thomas did win 2 MVPs. He won an MVP in '93 and '94. Jeff Bagwell won an NL MVP in 1994. So what you're looking at right there are both of your MVP winners. So that's probably why that card exists, because it's like basically this is a 95 card and those are your 94 MVPs, NL and AL. Bagwell had 1 gold glove. Frank Thomas didn't have any gold gloves, which surprised me because he seemed like he was pretty spry at first base, like he could really play it. Frank Thomas was voted into the Hall of Fame on his first ballot with 83.7% of the vote in 2014. Jeff Bagwell was voted in on his 7th ballot with 86% of the vote in 2017. Jeff Bagwell played his entire career from 91 to 05 with the Houston Astros, while Frank Thomas played with the White Sox from 90 to 05, played with the A's in 06, the Blue Jays in 07 and 08, and then went to the A's also in 08. Now their career wars, a little weird that their career wars. Frank Thomas's career WAR is 73.8. Bagwell's is actually higher at 79.9. So when you put the numbers side by side, it's really kind of obvious. Frank Thomas is the guy that you're probably going to start. If you want a little bit more speed, which I'm going to say we might need it, because really the only guy up there that can really move is Ozzie Smith. Ken Caminiti wasn't a stolen base guy, and neither was Lou Whitaker. Lou Whitaker had 143 stolen bases, but that's not a lot in 19 years. But so if I had to choose, if it was going to be my choice, you're going to have Caminiti, Smith, you're going to have Whitaker, and you're going to have Frank Thomas. But let me know, would you take Jeff Bagwell, knowing the numbers that you know, would you take Jeff Bagwell over Frank Thomas, or is Frank Thomas the clear winner? And that's All-Star for now.